This is True News. I'm Rick Wiles. It didn't take Publix very long to respond to the verbal assault that a Publix employee and customer dished out to my wife Susan yesterday in a local grocery store here in Vero Beach. Well, how did Publix respond? The grocery store chain announced today that face masks are mandatory in all the company's stores. I sent several emails to Publix Director of Communication, Maria Browse, one yesterday and another message this morning. I invited her to appear on True News. Publix Communication Director, however, did not communicate with me. She ignored me. Instead, she was eager to announce her employer's new mandatory face mask policy. Effective Tuesday, July 21st, Publix will require customers to wear face masks while shopping in any of its nearly 1,300 grocery stores. Signs announcing the new requirement will be posted at store entrances, and in-store announcements will be made. Well, Publix lost two formerly very loyal customers. Susan and I will immediately stop shopping in Publix stores. We will purchase fresh produce at farmers markets, and we'll buy other items online. We do not need Publix to survive. Make no mistake about it, mandatory face mask policies are not about health and safety. Such policies are about submission. Publix isn't the only retailer who is forcing their customers to submit to the new Nazism in America. CVS pharmacy stores and Target will also require customers to wear masks in their stores. CVS's policy goes into effect on Monday. Target's mandatory face mask policy starts on August 1st. It will not affect me either. I stopped shopping in Target stores when they mandated that transvestites could use any restroom in the stores. And I don't go into CVS drugstores because that's where sick people congregate. The most unhealthy retail environment in the world are pharmacies. Stay out of them and avoid all viruses and germs, not just coronavirus. I mean, why do people go in pharmacies? Because they're sick. It doesn't matter if coronavirus is here or not. 99% of the people in a pharmacy are sick. There are alternatives to buying groceries in Publix or Target or Walmart and buying vitamins and health products in pharmacy stores such as CVS. For fresh vegetables and produce, visit the closest farmer's market. Susan and I are blessed to live on Florida's Indian River County on the Florida Treasure Coast. Indian River County is famous for its Indian River citrus fruit, including oranges and grapefruits. We're surrounded by many produce farms. Susan and I love to visit outdoor farmer markets on weekends. In addition to an abundance of fresh produce, honey, bread, and baked goods, farmer markets are great places to meet other people like you who share similar interests and values. Instead of shopping in Publix or Walmart, my first choice is my favorite online retailer, and of course I'm talking about Amazon. I don't mind making Jeff Bezos richer. He runs a fantastic company. Who needs Publix? I sit in my recliner and order on my iPad what I need, and Amazon delivers it immediately, almost the next day, to my door. I even have Gator's dog food shipped to my house. Why go inside a bricks and mortar store and get hassled? In place of CVS pharmacy stores, try online retailers to get better products at lower prices. I'll recommend two online retailers for health products. The first recommendation is Swanson Vitamins. The company has been in business since 1969. It's a good, reliable retailer that produces quality products. The second choice for health products online is VitaCost. Vitacost offers natural, organic, and eco-friendly health products at prices, eco-friendly health products at reasonable prices. I just messed up Vitacost's free advertisement that I was doing here for them. But I shop online at other retailers too. I'm just giving you some recommendations so that you can move away from the Nazi face mask retailers such as Walmart, Publix, Target, CVS, Best Buy, and Starbucks. You don't need them. Leave them behind in their bricks and mortar dust pile. Hey, Edward Zoll and Matt Scow just returned from Boston. Edward will be off for the next week. He's on vacation, but Doc Burkhart is here and ready to talk.
So I guess Publix responded to Susan today.
Yeah, look what Susan did. She pushed Publix over the line.
They had to come out and say something, and so.
But they didn't contact me. No
The
response.
Director of Communications did not respond to you, but immediately.
And I told her, I said, I'm going to talk about this on True News. I'm asking you to talk to me. I'm inviting you to come on the program. No response from the Director of Communication. But immediately she ran out to announce that Publix is now doing mandatory face mask policies. So that's it's their choice. It's a privately owned company. They want to chase off customers. That's their choice. They can chase off customers. They just chased off Susan and me.
But to see all these retailers now just kind of go back into lockstep in line,
Yes.
and Walmart, CVS, Target's not, that's not unexpected to see Target do it. But Walmart responded so quick. I was.
Well, the National Retail Federation is pushing this.
Right.
They want a nationwide policy. They're demanding it. And so we're seeing the big retailers falling in lockstep. That's exactly what it is. By the way, I got an email, I think yesterday, some guy said, I love these emails. You guys are so stupid at True News. You don't know anything. You're so far behind. Why don't you get up to speed? You don't know what you're talking about. Why don't just study lockstep and you'll understand what's going on with coronavirus. Dear sir, if you're watching, it was True News that told you about lockstep.
Right.
All these other podcasts that are talking about lockstep got it from True News. And let me tell you where we got it. We got it from the Lord because the Holy Spirit spoke to my wife Susan through the night and kept saying the word lockstep. And when she woke up, she asked me in the morning, what is lockstep? And I told her, and she said, you're supposed to research it. It's connected to coronavirus. That was many, many months ago. That was what? February, March
that we started.
So, sir,
that was the
we are up to
foundation of
speed.
everything we started talking about then.
Yeah, we are up to speed.
But you're used to this by now, aren't you?
I've had 22 years of it.
So Rick puts out, some information. Usually it's revelation from the Lord, and then every other radio program, podcaster out there, they're trying to think, what are we going to talk about today? Well, let's listen to True News or watch True News, and then we'll get an idea what we can talk about.
What used to crack me up, Doc, is that when I used to do the audio podcasts, and we did interviews, 1 to 2 interviews a day, guests, and somebody would send me an audio clip from my interview,
yes,
and tell me, Rick, you got to listen to this interview.
And it's you.
And it's me. And they go, you got to hear this. You're getting behind everybody else. You got to listen to this interview. And I was like, it's me. It's my interview. But anyhow, I just gotten used to that over 20-some years. Look, the country's marching in lockstep. This is a pandemic, and there is a well thought out strategy that's being carried out, implemented, and they are re-engineering society. By the way, when I was talking about alternatives, I don't buy prescription drugs. I don't have any need for them. I'm not into pharmacia. But for those of you who need prescription drugs, you can buy prescription drugs online. I mean, they'll ship it to your house. Your doctor can give the prescription to an online retailer, and they'll ship it to your house. You don't need CVS or Walgreens.
That's right.
You don't have to go into these places. You don't have to wear your mask, go in there and stand with a bunch of sick people and be ordered to stand 6 feet apart and all that kind of stuff. Just have them ship it directly to your house. So there are alternatives. If you can afford, they're pricey. You know, there's these various food delivery services,
yes,
meal services, where they send you the fresh vegetables and, you can, produce your meals. I mean, it's expensive. I know a lot of people can't afford that. That is an alternative if you have the budget for it. But the farmers markets are a great place to go. And you're supporting your local farmers. It's a great place to get vegetables. Find your local independent stores. Go back, look for the neighborhood shops. Look for the local independent stores.
In the Philippines, Rick, one of the great features of living there is that no matter what neighborhood you live in, sometimes the vegetable truck will come down the street. Oh, yeah. And you can, flag down the vegetable truck and get any kind of produce that you can imagine off the truck and pay for it right there. I mean, it comes down your street.
We used to call it a truck farmer.
Yeah. And so they still do that in the Philippines. It's a great feature, and it saves you from having to, go into town or anything like that. And so, it'd be great if there was a revival of that here in the U.S. Some entrepreneur out there is going to say, that's going to be that would make a great business. I'm going to start a vegetable wagon in my town.
Doc, I have just a faint memory as a child of a truck farmer that would come to my grandparents' house. And so, I'm thinking maybe it was the late 50s, but I remember he had like a 1930s Ford
That's kind of
pickup.
how I imagine it too.
Yeah, the old 1930s Ford pickup truck.
Slapboard sides and everything.
Yep, and he would be loaded down with vegetables, and he would come to our grandparents' house, and I could still see my grandma and granddad going out to the truck and picking out the vegetables that they wanted, and that was just a regular way of getting. Of course, my granddad had a huge garden, but they were buying extra food that way. Your milk was delivered.
Yes.
Bread came. You had a bread man that would bring the bread. We need a revival. We need a revival of these things. Let's get back to local. There's opportunities. Every problem presents opportunities. And so you can just get upset at the problem, or you can take advantage of it. Right? So I'll give you an idea. So we're building our own digital platforms. Why? Because there's censorship. We saw years ago the censorship would come someday. It's now here. I can get really upset and angry about the fact that YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all these social media platforms are shutting down the accounts of Christians, conservatives, patriots. I can get real upset about it because it's an attack on free speech. But I can also say, wow, these big companies don't want tens of millions of customers.
Right.
They don't want them. I'll take them. Let's build a platform. Let's provide alternatives. So don't see just the negative in all this stuff. And just like with these big retailers trying to force people to wear masks and stand 6 feet apart and do all this kind of stuff, just stop going in the stores.
Right.
You don't have to, just opt out. You don't have to participate in this craziness. Opt out. I've been buying everything online for a long, that, Doc. I could do online.
Amazon boxes showing up all the time here.
Yeah. I don't know why people still go in stores. I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't go into stores. Teach these guys a lesson. Teach them a lesson. Teach them all a lesson. Drop out, opt out, let their bricks and mortar stores crumble. Move on. If they want to create a new society, okay, we'll create a new economy. And they won't be in it. They're obsolete. And, we can go back. We can rewind the clock and go back in time and say, what were some of the good things that we had in our society? before these big chain stores came along, these big box stores, and obliterated Main Street businesses, mom and pop stores. You know, Doc, I was thinking the other day, the town I grew up, I was remembering, I could think of all the retailers. I knew the retailers.
Yes. I am thinking about that myself right now.
Mr. Rosen owned the clothing store. Another clothing store was owned by Mr. Ginsburg. The jewelry store was owned by Mr. Somm, who, by the way, all three of them were Jewish, all right? But everybody was part of the community.
Right.
We knew all the retailers. We knew the owners. We were all family-like. It was the way America used to be.
Yes.
And that's been destroyed by these big stores like Walmart and Target. Well, let's just let their day end.
Amen.
I don't like the sterile environment they created, the shopping malls and the big box stores. And so, hey, let's rewind, go back, create an environment that is pleasant, an environment that is wholesome, an environment that is a community where we all live together. Different races, different religions, we live together. And we didn't have these problems.
Right. We share a community. We're building a community. We didn't have factions in the community because we depended on each other. We had retailers that provided niche items that were necessary for the entire community. We relied on one another. We watched out for one another. We've kind of been disengaged from that. Well, now we have to kind of rewind the clock here and look for ways that we can reconnect again. And one great way to do that is respond to this stupid mask policy around the country by saying, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to follow along. Right. And so, and then you're going to find other people who believe the same thing. And so right. I guarantee you, if there was a store out there that said, we are a mask-free zone, they would be busy constantly, yes. Wouldn't they?
But the mind control Nazis would immediately attack them.
Yes. You're creating a pandemic.
Look,
listen, if it was as serious as they think they make it sound, mm-hmm. They wouldn't let a single person in a grocery store. They wouldn't let a single person in a restaurant. They wouldn't let a single person get on a plane because it's that deadly, right?
If they're right, then we should all be locked up and not allowed to go outside of our homes.
And maybe that's the ultimate plan at some point there. And maybe that's what is at the end of the line.
Doc, they're conditioning people to surrender.
Yes.
This is about submission and surrender. So you fight back by not surrendering and not submitting. They don't have authority to make you wear a mask. Show me the law. Show me the mask law passed by the U.S. Congress, passed by your state legislature. Show me the mask law that says the state has the authority to make you wear a mask. First of all, we had Anthony Fauci and the CDC, if you go back to the beginning of this thing, they were telling you don't wear a mask. You don't need a mask.
And then they came back and said the reason why we said that is we were afraid that healthcare workers wouldn't have enough equipment. Now, if you had just said that in the beginning and been truthful about that, that was one thing. But you weren't.
So they admitted they lied.
You lied. You lied because, or else the masks don't work. One of the two. By the way, only sick people wear a mask. Only sick people wear a mask. If you're well, you don't need to wear a mask.
And if you're sick, you shouldn't be out in public. You're the one who should stay home. If you're sick, you stay home. Don't go in the stores. Don't go into school. Don't go to work if you're sick. But don't tell everybody else that you have to act like you're sick. I'm not sick.
Yes.
I'm not sick. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not behaving like I'm a zombie. But this is about control. It's about submission. It's about breaking you down, that you just give up your independence, your freedom, your liberty, and you act like a mindless, zombie-like robot, and you're told, stand here on this red line. Come when you're told to come forward.
Walk down this aisle, this direction. Walk
Yes.
down this aisle, this direction. Oh, well, like we're in kindergarten.
It's It's all mind control. This is the new communism. It's a new ism. Look, it's beyond communism. It's beyond Nazism. It's beyond socialism. It's beyond fascism. It's a new ism that the world has never seen.
Right.
It'll be years from now until we have a name for it. But this is a new ism that is seeking to control the world. And I think, Doc, that now they are dividing the country. They're segregating people, mask and no mask.
So the ones wearing the mask are the submissive ones, the ones who
Yes.
have said, I have opted into this new system.
Yes.
That I've taken the initiation into the new world order. That's really what it is, right? Because
is.
it's a new world order.
Doc, my daughter Carissa told me last night, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. She told me last night, she said, Dad, do you remember a dream I had about 12 years ago? Carissa's had a lot of prophetic dreams in her lifetime. And this particular one I forgot about. But she said, it was at least 12, maybe 14, 15 years ago. She said, in the dream, it was like the whole world was wearing a mask. Everybody was wearing masks. And she went into a Walmart, of all places, a Walmart, and Walmart only had 2 checkout lines. One checkout line said compliant customers. The other checkout line said non-compliant. And in the dream, Carissa said she was trying to warn people, don't get in the compliant line.
This was 12 years ago?
Over 12 years ago. And she said she was trying to warn people, don't get in the compliant line. They're changing you if you get in that line. She can't remember the rest of the details of the dream. Maybe if she finds it in a prayer journal, where she wrote it down, maybe
Right.
she can get it to me. But just the fact that she had that dream 12 plus years ago means that the Holy Spirit gave her a dream. Means that what is happening today is diabolical.
Yes.
That this is of the devil. That the Holy Spirit showed her 12 years ago, there's coming a day you will be ordered to wear a mask.
It's just, how the Holy Spirit does that and reveals information to His saints to prepare people, prepare their hearts, prepare their spirits for what's coming in the future. I mean, all these things that the Lord reveals to your family and to our viewers and listeners, they are meant to prepare us for these days. This is it. This is what perilous times looks like.
I know I've told this dream before, but I still think it's going to come true soon. When I see the object, I will know. The moment I see it, I will recognize it. This dream was maybe, I would say 15 years ago. I was living in Texas when I had the dream. So it definitely was before 2005. And in the dream, I was in a city, I was on a street. There were a lot of people on the street, not a huge crowd, but something was going on.
Okay.
People were milling around on the street, on the sidewalks and the street itself. But it wasn't violent, it wasn't chaotic, but there were a lot of people out on the street. Something was going on. The police were rounding up certain people, and I was one of them. What they did, Doc, in this dream, these law enforcement officers went down the street, and they were placing on the ground, on the street, on the pavement,
Okay.
these rectangular objects.
Okay.
And they were only about this high, but it was a rectangle.
Okay.
And they were laying them on the street, going all the way down the street. And then they were apprehending certain people, I'm assuming who they thought were the leaders of whatever was happening. And I was one of them that was apprehended. And I was told to sit down inside the triangle. And then the law enforcement officer activated it, and it was electrified. And he politely warned me that if I moved too close to either side of the triangle, I would receive a very violent shock. And all the way down the street, they had people inside these triangles waiting to be deported, to be taken to a detention center. But they were holding us in these electrified triangles. I really believe there will be a day I'll see this. I'll go, there it is. That's the dream. That's what I saw. It'll be a way to hold people, awaiting a vehicle to take them to a detention center.
Right. Wow.
But God keeps showing us. He's showing us the things that are coming. And now these things are actually taking place.
Rick, here, we've been dealing with prophetic items for 20 plus years. And of course, the item of the mark of the beast comes up. And there's a lot of people out there who say, well, I would never take the mark. I'd never take the mark of the beast. I'd never do that. But think about what the masks do. You can't buy or sell without a mask. That's where we're headed with this,
yes,
right?
It is.
If you're not wearing a mask, you won't be able to buy or sell. Is that right?
Literally what this has become.
That's right.
In a matter of weeks.
That's right. And see how easily people have accepted that. Everybody's accepted it, that you can neither buy nor sell unless you're wearing a mask. Think how easy it's going to be when the real mark comes.
And it goes from mask to mark.
Yes, because what's the difference really?
What if the mark is your immunity passport?
That's a good point. And you can't go anywhere without, you can't go into a grocery store, get on a plane, get on a train, unless you have, the mark.
Proves that you have been vaccinated. And speaking of coronavirus vaccinations.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so let me see if I can pull this up. We just read before the newscast started that, there it is. Scientists are calling for volunteers to be infected with the coronavirus to test vaccine. This was reported this afternoon by CNBC.
All right, so when did stupid enter into our vocabulary, Rick? All right, listen, if you change the word coronavirus to, let's say, bubonic plague, okay? Scientists call for volunteers to be infected with bubonic plague to test vaccines. Who would sign up for that? Anybody? Let's try another one. Scientists call for volunteers to be infected with polio to test vaccines. Would anybody sign up for that, Rick?
About AIDS?
Yeah. Scientists call for volunteers to be infected with
Ebola.
AIDS.
How about Ebola?
Ebola, Zika, whatever you want to put in there. And yet somehow we're supposed to just take this headline, scientists call for volunteers to be infected with coronavirus to test vaccines, which tells me they're not worried about the coronavirus.
No, that tells me they're rushing to get the vaccine and they have to do the protocols just to dot the I's, cross the T's, and to be able to say we tested it on humans, it's safe. And so they're saying, we'll just find a bunch of really stupid humans that will let us infect them.
Yeah, how much money would you take to be infected with coronavirus? How much money would you take? How much is it $1,000?
My son Jeremy and I, we play this game all the time. All right?
Okay.
So
is it $1,000? Is it $10,000? I'm asking the audience. So, what number? What's the monetary figure? Is it $50,000, $100,000, $200,000? What number will you say? You know what? That coronavirus, put it in here. Plunge that needle in my arm.
Jeremy and I play this game all the time. We see something like we'll see alligators, and sure as anything, one of us is going to say to the other one, "How much money would it take for you to swim across that water to get to the other side, seeing those 3 alligators in there?" And so we start raising the price. Okay, well, what's your price point? All right, and I'll tell you, Doc, mine.
What's your alligator price point? I'm just curious on that.
$5 million, because I figure I'll be spending at least $2 million
The doctor's
on legs, on legs, just to buy new legs. All right, so I'd break even. I'd have, I'd clear $3 million.
Legs, but $3 million.
I'd have $3 million. All right, but I have two bionic legs. Okay, but seriously, with this, how much money would it take you to say, "Hey, I've heard all this news about coronavirus. They put people on ventilators. Yeah, go ahead and jab me with it. I'll be a guinea pig."
I mean, that's like, volunteering to test bungee cords, isn't it? I mean, really, who does that? No one does that. What
And yet it's so
level of stupid
dangerous.
is that?
It's so dangerous. I can't go to Publix without a mask.
That's right. That's where I'm getting at here. It's so dangerous I can't buy or sell without a mask, but they're looking for volunteers to be infected with it.
You're not putting logic in this discussion, are you?
I'm afraid so, Rick. I have to at times.
All right, so what this means to me, Doc, is they are fast-tracking the vaccine, okay? They're fast-tracking it. And they should be taking 18 months to 2 years to safely test the vaccine on animals, on humans, before they roll it out to the general public.
And shouldn't they test on people who have coronavirus? I mean, why would you volunteer? That's what gets me, Rick. Why would you volunteer to be infected with coronavirus?
Well, the purpose of the vaccine is to prevent you from getting coronavirus. So you can't test it on somebody who has coronavirus.
That's just another level of dumb for me. That's beyond. That's mega dumb.
But you don't need the vaccine if everybody's wearing a mask, right?
That's right.
So doesn't that cancel out the vaccine? But President Trump today said, have no fear. The United States military is revving up to deliver this vaccine.
Yes, they are. And so he announced that this afternoon. We have this short video clip where he actually says it's going to be, and you heard it here on True News first, where he says the military will deliver the vaccines. Watch this.
Set up that as we get the vaccine or therapeutic, and we're set up militarily, we're going to be delivering it in record time. It's all set to move. We put an investment up front, and we have logistical people, generals, great people. They're going to be delivering this all over the country as soon as we have it, and we've made tremendous progress.
You heard him right there. As soon as we get it set up militarily, we'll have generals that will deliver this. Mm-hmm. And notice he added, they kind of hinted at this before, vaccine or therapeutic. Just in case we don't get a vaccine on a certain timetable, they're going to deliver something militarily. They're going to use the logistics of the military to deliver a vaccine to every American.
So will it be mandatory? Mr. Trump's attorney, Jeffrey Epstein Dershowitz, said the government has the authority to drag you out of your house and plunge a needle into your body and give you a coronavirus vaccine.
That's right.
So will the U.S. military, now that's President Trump's lawyer. That's the kind of advice he is giving Mr. Trump. So will Mr. Trump authorize the U.S. military to forcibly drag you out of your house? It'd be easy for them to figure out who gets the vaccine first, the people not wearing masks.
That's right.
You've already been marked. You know, in Nazi Germany, the Nazis made the Jews wear marks. They put a mark on the Jews to identify the Jews. What's happening now is the reverse. The mask is the mark that you are part of the Nazis.
Yes. Wow.
And not wearing the mask is an indication that you are resisting the new Nazism.
That's quite the revelation there, Rick, but that fits exactly the paradigm that we're talking about right now. And now, as you said, with the military delivering the vaccine here, I mean, we get emails all the time from viewers and listeners. Why do you hate Donald Trump so much? It's not that we don't hate him. We want to support him. We really do want to. But when we hear stuff like this, we got to say, come on.
Is he in on it? Is he
You've got to ask that
on the
question.
pandemic?
All you folks, all you MAGA folks out there, you've got to ask, do you want the military delivering a vaccine to you. This isn't somebody else saying this. This is Donald Trump saying this. Okay? So, yeah, we're going to call it out. We're going to say something about it. You wouldn't want President Obama saying it. You wouldn't want President Bush saying it. And you certainly don't want President Trump saying it either.
You know, Doc, I was just thinking, I'd like to invite the CEO of Publix to come on True News and conduct a seminar on the proper way to put on a mask and take it off, and how often you should change the mask, and how you prevent contamination of the mask. Because he's an expert. He's an expert on masks.
Right.
The CEO of Publix could probably go to a hospital and conduct a seminar to doctors about how to properly wear a mask.
But Rick, he's not qualified to do that, is he? But he's qualified to tell everyone to wear a mask.
To tell everybody else. These clowns that are telling people they have to wear a mask, they don't even know how to do it.
Right.
How are they sanitizing their hands before they put the mask on?
What are you doing with the mask after you take it off? Are you reusing it? Because let's face it.
They're reusing the mask. It should be disposed immediately after about 30 minutes, and then another mask. It's not healthy to wear a mask all day long. You're damaging your lungs and your brain by breathing in your own carbon dioxide.
Right.
People are throwing. I see women taking their masks out of their purse. I see guys pulling their masks out of their pocket. Oh, it's such a joke. It is such a joke.
Because if you're not doing it properly, all it is a costume after that, right?
That's all it is.
It's just part of a costume. And, you know, in reality, there are people that are watching this right now, listening to this podcast right now. You know exactly what we're talking about. You'll go to the store, you'll put on a mask because, you know.
You don't want to be hassled.
Right. You don't want to deal with somebody saying something to you or messing with you or anything like that.
But you don't know how to put on a mask.
Right.
You're not trained. You've never been to medical school. You don't know what you're doing. Your mask, that mask you're carrying around is so contaminated with germs and viruses.
It's the equivalent of carrying an umbrella in a meteor storm. I mean, that's what it is. It provides no protection because the virus is smaller than any commercially available mask, can filter out. I mean, that's the reality of it.
If you think your mask is so clean, why don't you drive over to your local hospital and donate it to the surgery department and just say, here, I want to donate my mask. Take it off and say, I've handled this mask perfectly. All right, give it to the doctor to use in a surgery.
Right. And Rick, I'll take it one step further here. Why don't they make everyone wear gloves? Why aren't we wearing gloves?
That's next,
everywhere?
Doc.
Why isn't everyone wearing gloves?
That's next. That's next.
I mean, if it's that bad, where we're having to wear a mask all the time, you know, we should be wearing gloves. I mean, we should probably be in full PPE suits walking around, right?
I just, before I walked out here, I got a text from True News supporter Dennis in Michigan. He sent me, he's buying gas, Doc. He took a snapshot of the gas pump with a sign that said, because of the coronavirus, because of the coin shortage, we are no longer accepting cash. It was on the gas pump. So this is the other big lie, the coin shortage. Where did all the coins go?
It's probably in somebody's couch somewhere because that's where all the coins end up at my house.
But why suddenly now with coronavirus did all the coins get up and leave?
The excuse they're making is the mint isn't producing new coins because they laid off.
Where's the old coins?
They laid off so many people with coronavirus and stuff.
Doc,
that doesn't make sense either.
40, 50 million people out of work, there ought to be abundant coins because
that's right.
They're not spending anything. Right? So it's another crock of baloney. There's a plan. And the society is being re-engineered. They're introducing a complete restructuring of the world. When we were going to technology conferences, and some of you were giving us a lot of grief over it. Just some of you. You know who you are. And you griped and you complained. You said, why are you wasting time going to technology conferences? We don't want to hear about this stuff. And we were like, we're trying to tell you there's a plan underway. They're going to change the world. Here's what's coming. Driverless cars, 5G, telemedicine, cashless society, robotics. This is the stuff we were telling people. Doc, none of us, you and I, Edward, none of us imagined they would introduce it through a virus. The virus is the cover story to introduce this new world. It's the cover story. This is the biggest hoax since Y2K. Now, look, I believe there is a virus. I'm not doubting that. I believe that there's a virus.
But the response is definitely a hoax.
But the response is a hoax. It's a plandemic. It's the biggest hoax since Y2K. Who came up with Y2K? Government officials, technocrats, computer experts, military generals, international bankers.
He gave all of that an opportunity to do a reset, basically.
They rewired the world.
Yes.
They scared everybody to go buy new computers. What was in the new computers? Back doors, so that the government could spy on everything you were doing. They made you compliant with the new system. That was the purpose of Y2K.
You remember the fear angle of it? Of course you do. You wrote a book on it. I still remember New Year's Eve, Y2K. I was at a church service, a watch party, we called them back then. But I had my radio with me. That was when we still listened to transistor radios. Right. I was listening to it because I wanted to be prepared just in case Russia fired off some nuclear missiles accidentally, because their computers weren't up to speed.
The Pentagon was telling us in 1999 that they were very concerned that Russia's computer systems were not Y2K compliant, and that there would be accidental launches of ICBMs at midnight in 1999.
So in 2000, you had the hardware update, and then 2001, you had the software update with the security that came after 9/11.
Yes, and the Patriot Act.
Yes.
So look how far they moved us. Look how far they moved the world since Y2K and 9/11. Now they're moving us again through coronavirus.
It's Y2K on steroids. It's 9/11. On amphetamines. I mean, that's where we're at right now.
All they're doing is gauging the level of resistance.
And there is
none. How many people are awake?
And there is no resistance.
Well, I think there's a lot of people out there that know that something very strange is going on, that they don't know what to do about it. They see their neighbors, they see people in their community submitting to it. We all are experiencing it. But I believe the powers to be at the top are monitoring the level of resistance. Remember, Mr. Pompeo said, we're running a live exercise.
Yes.
And Mr. Trump said, you should have told me. And what is this live exercise? Well, I think it's lockstep. They're moving the world lockstep into a new world order. There's talk, a lot of rumors. There are rumors, but they're circulating everywhere that Governor Abbott of Texas will possibly tomorrow, or in the very near future, decree a statewide lockdown of Texas. So a rancher that is just around Longhorn cattle, he's going to have to wear a mask and stay 6 feet from a cow, I guess. But they're talking about a statewide lockdown of Texas. Governor Asa Hutchinson of Arkansas, Republican governor, today ordered statewide mandatory face mask.
And when you say mandatory for when? Anytime
outside.
anytime you go outside.
That's my understanding. I mean, if you're, other than, I guess, in your yard, I haven't read the full, I just saw the headline. I'm assuming it's any place in public. These are the Republican governors that are now falling. And yet the death rate, have you seen corpses anywhere? Have you seen the truckloads of dead bodies being hauled out of your city? Have you had to step over diseased corpses in your city? Have you even heard people coughing? Where is the outbreak? Where is it? We're being told, all those of you outside of Florida, you're being told that Florida is the epicenter. Well, I'm looking around, I don't see disease. Do you see disease here?
No, not at all.
Are you afraid of walking outside, that there's a deadly disease ready to jump on you, especially if you go down the wrong aisle in Publix?
I'm more afraid of mosquitoes right now than anything else.
Yeah.
It's mosquito season here.
Yeah, in Florida, you greater chance of getting a disease from a mosquito bite. Why don't mosquitoes wear masks? I mean, do you know how many people get infected with diseases, encephalitis, West Nile virus, because of mosquitoes? But they don't lock down Florida when the mosquitoes come out.
No, they kill the mosquitoes. It's crazy, Rick. And then those that resist, they're the ones that are caught on the backside of this. And now we're seeing reactions to it that may even be what we call violent reactions to it. Because one of the main places that a lot of government officials like to blame as epicenters for virus infection is churches around the country. You hear it all the time. Saying, oh, we got to close down the churches because the churches, they spread the virus. We got to keep them, if you do meet, you got to keep 6 feet apart, and you can only have 25% occupancy in a building and all these other things. Or you just shut down the church completely and you go to video. And you know that people aren't watching you. You know it.
Doc, if you do a news search, just churches coronavirus, you'll see the articles that have popped up in the past 2 weeks. Churches are now the main contributor to coronavirus. Churches are the new super spreaders of coronavirus. It's all in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
There's a plan to go after the churches, to shut them down.
And one of the states that's really going after churches is California, Rick.
Yes.
Governor Newsom. And it's like he's gone to war against churches out in California. This is number 8 for control here. This is from the Sacramento Bee. No singing in church. 3 California churches sue Governor Gavin Newsom over the state ban. And of course, you remember we reported here on True News that if you did go to church, you couldn't talk out loud, you couldn't sing out loud, you couldn't do any of those things in church. Totally ridiculous. And so now churches are pushing back, and they're suing Governor Newsom over the state ban. And so that's what's happening right now in California, Rick.
But there are only 3 churches in that lawsuit.
Yes, that's sad, isn't it?
Out of thousands, tens of thousands of churches, only 3 joined the lawsuit. The next one, acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf said the city of Portland has been under siege. Portland's experiencing right now what Seattle was going through.
Yes.
And the Antifa communist revolutionaries have now stepped up their activity. I mean, Portland has been the scene of Antifa violence for over a year, but they really stepped it up in the past several weeks. And now you have the acting Secretary of Homeland Security saying the city is under siege, and he's blaming the mayor, saying that the mayor is deliberately allowing it to happen and almost encouraging the revolutionaries.
Well, I mean, if you look at the events over the past several months, Rick, you'd have to come to that same conclusion as well. I mean, the Homeland Security Secretary, the acting Homeland Security Secretary, actually laid it all out in a document that was published, saying that these are just a few of the items that have occurred since the end of May,
This is a list from the Department of Homeland Security.
And this is what's causing them great concern. This is what's being allowed to happen.
In the city of Portland.
Right. And so all these are actions against federal properties or government buildings or anything of, related to the government. So you got like the courthouse or the U.S. Custom House or fencing around federal property or, once again, around the courthouse. And these are happening, look, on a day-to-day basis, June 7th, June 8th, June 10th, June 11th. And notice the Homeland Security labels them violent anarchists, graffitied the Hatfield Courthouse. Violent anarchists graffitied the Gus J. Solomon Courthouse. Violent anarchists vandalized an FPS camera on the Hatfield Courthouse. And so if you continue to see these things happening and federal buildings are being attacked, federal properties are being attacked, there comes a time where the federal government is going to step in and they're going to defend their property if the city's not going to do it, Rick.
And that's exactly what they're warning the city, that Homeland Security is going to take action to get to bring this under control, to restore law and order, and to protect property and lives in the city of Portland. The leftist Democrat mayors and governors are part of this revolution. And this is no accident that they are encouraging the violence, they're covering for it, they're protecting it. I mean, just like Nancy Pelosi, when she was asked about the mobs pulling down statues, like Christopher Columbus in Baltimore, her answer was, people do what they want to do.
Yes.
That's the Speaker of the House. People do what they want to do.
And Rick, the whole time we've been talking here, we've been showing all the different items and all the different events and incidents that have occurred just in Portland, that has prompted the Department of Homeland Security to respond and say to Mayor Ted Wheeler there in Portland, you better get things in shape really quick or we're going to come in.
Well, the mayor said he doesn't need, nor does he want, the help of the U.S. government. And Ted Wheeler, he inherited a lot of money. His family was wealthy in Oregon in the lumber business. So here's a guy who was born in the money, grew up rich, lived a privileged life, and yet he's helping communist revolutionaries destroy the country in the system that made his family wealthy. Is that stupid?
Yes. I mean, tearing down the very structure, the very foundation that created the wealth in the first place for him to be able to even run for office and to enjoy, all the benefits of having wealth. It just doesn't make any sense. What happens when people get rich, Rick? I mean, is there a socialist gene that is triggered in their brain?
Usually by the third generation. The first generation builds the business, builds the wealth. The second generation manages it, and the third generation destroys it. That's almost universal. And you ask any asset protection planner, anybody that's professionally involved in advising wealthy families how to preserve their wealth, they'll tell you, by the time it gets to the third generation, that group of kids will destroy what their grandparents built. It's just, there's something about humans, Doc, that they just revert back to stupidness.
It's cycles.
It's just cycles.
You see it in
because
the Bible.
They didn't work, they didn't build it, they didn't struggle, they didn't pay the price to build the business. It was given to them. They were born wealthy, they grew up privileged, and then they think they have to do something stupid with it. It's almost like they have a guilt complex for being so wealthy.
And that's exactly what it is. They didn't earn it.
They didn't earn it. And so they give the money to leftist communist organizations as some way to appease their conscience.
But something happens to them where they get to thinking that you didn't earn it either.
Yes.
And so when you did earn it, when you did work for it. And so,
Doc, there's something else going on. And I've noticed in the past week, there is an uptick in the number of church arsons,
yes.
where churches are being set on fire.
And it's an alarming number of them, Rick. I mean, the most prominent one that has happened over the past week or so has been church in California, the San Gabriel Mission. I mean, it's one of the iconic buildings in California.
Yes.
250-year-old church, with some of the original fixtures and everything, 250 years old, caught on fire.
It's a beautiful building. I've been there. It's a beautiful building. It's a 249-year-old building, and it was destroyed.
It's going to take years to restore it to any kind of level of usage again, and so. But this is one of many that we've observed over the past several weeks. It doesn't seem to be getting much press, Rick.
No, we do have a local news report from the NBC station in Los Angeles. We got some video from it. Let's watch it.
An overnight fire destroys much of the historic San Gabriel Mission, and already there's an outpouring of support to help to rebuild the nearly 250-year-old mission. NBC is in our newsroom now. He has an update on the search for a cause. Rick.
Yeah, Kathy, right now the ATF is part of the investigation. Since the fire happened at a church, the mission is heavily damaged, but not all is lost. Many artifacts are actually being stored off-site since there are renovations underway. The church itself closed recently due to the pandemic and was actually set to reopen to the public next Saturday.
2.5 centuries of history nearly destroyed by smoke and flames overnight. Fire crews dousing the burned out wooden roof today, putting out hot spots. The inside of Mission San Gabriel heavily damaged.
It's heartbreaking. This is heartbreaking.
Terry Huerta grew up attending Mass and other services at the San Gabriel Mission. She, like so many others around Southern California, see the mission as an incredibly special place.
My parents had their 25th and 50th wedding anniversary here. Brothers and sisters who were married here. My daughter just got married here.
4:30 this morning, the emergency call came in. Firefighters first on scene say there was so much smoke and flames, they called out a full alarm, requesting help from several nearby city fire departments.
They went in and they started pulling things from the walls to save them because of its historic significance.
San Gabriel's mayor praising the firefighters' efforts. Unfortunately, they couldn't save everything, including parts of a recent renovation.
Just yesterday, the pews had been redone. They were put inside.
Firefighters tried to save more. They made their way inside, but the flames forced them out.
It became very dangerous inside. There was parts of the roof that were starting to fall on top of the firefighters while they were attempting to extinguish the fire.
The mission's roof is gone, exterior walls still intact. Mission San Gabriel, founded in September 1771, a significant piece of California history. You can see the flames stopped short of destroying the altar.
But the altar piece is original to the mission. It was hand carved in Mexico and brought up here.
The mission, serving the Catholic faithful for 2.5 centuries, is actually undergoing a major renovation for the past 4 years.
When you walk the mission grounds and you walk into the church, there is a feeling of peace that is indescribable. And we'll get it back.
Investigators have not yet found any evidence of arson right now, but they are still searching for the cause of this overnight fire. The LA Archdiocese also says it is accepting donations to help in the mission's restoration. From the newsroom, I'm Rick Montanez, NBC4 News.
250 years old, Rick.
Yes, it's a beautiful building. We could be here for an hour showing you examples of churches that have burned down in the past 2 weeks. I was shocked when I started looking at the number of stories. There was just one in your home state, Missouri.
Yes.
Small town.
Small town, Leeton, Missouri. In case you're wondering where Leeton is, it's between Chihuahua and Blairsburg.
Oh,
So
okay. Now I know where it's at. Okay.
But there was a church fire in this small town about 1,000 people, 1,500 people. But The state fire marshal's getting involved in the investigation of this because it is suspected that arson may be involved in this. And I have to, when we're talking about the San Gabriel mission there too, Rick, they mentioned that the ATF was involved in the investigation. Obviously, they have some feeling that maybe that there was some arson involved with that as well. But what stunned me, and of course, as we were looking through all this, Rick, is the number of churches around the country just in the past week that have experienced fires. And it's just been shocking at the number that we've been looking at.
Doc, they said that who was Sean King from Black Lives Matter? He said they were going to attack the white Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we showed you scenes from the movie For Greater Glory. That was just weeks ago. We said, look, they're telling us they're going to attack the churches. Now we have churches burning down. Is it a coincidence? No, I don't think it's a coincidence. You had a revolutionary say publicly, we're going to destroy white Jesus.
That's right, and that's their plan. And so
we have one also, Oak Hills Church. This is from KENS TV 5. Oak Hills Church building declared complete loss following early morning fire.
And this was just 2 days ago, Rick. I mean, this is happening this week. This is another one. Another church, this one outside of San Antonio, Oak Hills Church, complete loss following early morning fire.
And this one, Doc, it wasn't a church, the main structure of the church.
Yes.
It was I believe, a steel frame building beside the church that the church owned. And the fire marshal said basically it was a very suspicious fire because there was no reason for the building to catch on fire.
It wasn't hooked up to gas, wasn't hooked up to electric, so there was no reason for the building to catch on fire, what we consider by normal means. And
That's right. A lot of these attacks, the one pattern that Doc and I have seen is a lot of the attacks in the past 2 weeks have been against Catholic churches.
Yes.
The one that we showed you in San Gabriel, Roman Catholic Church. A lot of these churches that have been attacked in the past 2 weeks are Catholic churches, which makes me think this is the work of the Jacobins, because the Jacobins have been at war with the Catholics since the French Revolution.
Yes, and that was one of the very first things they sought to destroy in the Jacobin Revolution in France. With the exception, they didn't destroy Notre Dame, but they repurposed it for their new religion. And so, for instance, here's an example here. This is not a fire. Well, it was a fire up in Boston. The Virgin Mary statue set on fire at a Boston church. And
who does this? Who does something like this? How sick and demented do you have to be? This is the left, folks. This is what the political left looks like in America.
Right.
Let's name it for what it is and who they are. This is the left. This is what Nancy Pelosi covers. This is what she protects. This is what the Democratic governors and mayors are protecting. This is the violent left that they are providing political and legal cover for them. And somebody's financing them. These aren't at random acts of violence. This is coordinated domestic terrorism, and it's aimed at churches. They said weeks ago, we're going to destroy white Jesus in America.
So they're making you afraid to go to church because you might catch on fire there.
Yes.
You might be in there when it catches on fire. We have this report from WCVB in Boston where they talk about the statue of the Virgin Mary being set on fire.
You can see neighbors have already replaced the plastic flowers that are normally part of the statue, a statue that has been here for almost 75 years without any acts of vandalism until now. Father John Curran came to see for himself the damage done to the statue of the Blessed Mother. Boston police tell us someone called in just after 9 o'clock Saturday night to report plastic flowers held in the statue were set on fire, creating black soot that burned the statue. The statue that was placed there just after World War II, welcoming back soldiers from the war. Father Curran says he hopes whoever did this would come forward if they are looking for help. The church would be there for them.
There's too much division, too much hatred, too much, beating each other up. Hopefully from this, we can have a sign from our God that we need to keep pressing the issue of reconciliation and unity and peace.
The Archdiocese said it will clean the statue. As for the investigation, Boston Fire Department's arson unit is involved, as well as Boston Police, and both departments ask if you have any information to call them. Reporting live in Dorchester, I'm Ted Wayman, WCVB News Center 5.
Now, a week ago here in Florida, a Catholic church was attacked.
Yes.
Set on fire by a young man about 24, 25 years old. This happened, I think this was in Ocala.
Yeah, just outside of Orlando. And so just up the road from us here, a Florida man lights a Catholic church on fire. The parishioners were inside when it happened. He drove a van into it, Rick, and then once he drove the van in, he set fire inside.
The people were in the church.
Yes.
You get this? This is the world we're in now in the United States of America. Crazy, demon-possessed leftists are driving vehicles into churches to set the churches on fire with the people in the churches.
Now, fortunately, in this case, they did arrest someone and has been charged with setting the fire. I think it's interesting, Rick, they did a mugshot, but they made him pull his mask down for it. I guess you don't get the coronavirus if you're getting a mugshot. So the man charged in Florida church arson attack. And once again, he drove his van into the church and then got out of his van and, using
he looks like somebody that would read Right Wing Watch.
I agree with you, Rick.
If I had to have a portrait of the typical Right Wing Watch follower, that's
your composite photo
that's
right
the composite drawing.
So, well, that's not the only attack that's been going on here in Florida, Rick. There was a report, and this happened just this week, here down in South Florida here. Church members searching for answers after a statue of Jesus is decapitated. And this is
this another Catholic church?
Another Catholic church down in South Florida here. We have a report from Channel 10 down in South Florida here. Tell us a little bit more about what happened here at this particular event. Let's watch this.
Today, a statue of Jesus violently vandalized inside a church.
Police and parishioners now asking who would commit such an unholy act. Local 10's Christian De La Rosa is live in Southwest Miami-Dade with the disturbing details. Christian.
And this all happened here at the Good Shepherd Catholic Church. I want to show you the amount of screws and rods that required to keep this statue up. You got to think about the amount of force it probably took to topple it, meaning this may have taken more than one person to do this. A blessed and sacred place for parishioners in West Kendall, hit with hate and destruction. This Jesus statue found decapitated.
This morning we have found it on the ground.
Deacon Edivaldo da Silva found the Good Shepherd monument at the church bearing his name, headless and toppled off its pedestal Wednesday morning.
We presume that it's vandalism.
Deacon da Silva points to what the Catholic Church says is a growing number of holy places hit with vandalism, from Florida to California.
We have seen this happening all over the country.
The Archdiocese of Miami telling Local 10 News its members expect police to, quote, investigate this desecration as a hate crime. This is another attack on the Catholic Church, which is happening across the country, end quote.
Many. You see one there?
Deacon da Silva points to his church's surveillance cameras. None of them point to where the statue once stood, but he hopes the cameras can yield clues to who was behind this unholy act.
God bless you all, and let us all pray for peace in our country and peace in Miami.
So, Doc, have we seen statues pulled down in America in the past 30 to 60 days?
Well, it seems to be on the decline, but we still see statues being pulled down. But it seems like it's shifted now.
So, but who were the primary groups pulling down the statues?
Anarchists, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter and Antifa.
Right.
So one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter, Sean King, said, we're going to destroy white Jesus. We're going to remove statues of white Jesus. We now see churches being attacked. We see statues being toppled. We see statues being burned, decapitated. I have to assume that this is in response to Sean King calling for physical attacks on churches.
Right. I mean, you have to make that conclusion. That's where it takes you, right? And it's not just happening here, it's also happening up in Canada as well. Statue of Jesus vandalized at, once again, a Catholic church in Canada. And it seems like the Catholic Church is a target for a lot of these items. Rick found this one story today that was came out of your old stomping grounds up in Chattanooga. First I'd heard about it was today, where a statue, this again of Mother Mary being vandalized at a Catholic church. U.S. Congressman actually stepped in and had some comments about it as well. So this is up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where it talks about recent vandalism at, once again, a Catholic church there in the Chattanooga area. Let's watch this.
We are following an investigation involving vandalism at St. Stephen's Catholic Church in Chattanooga that happened over the weekend. Their statue of the Virgin Mary was torn down. The head is missing. U.S. Representative and practicing Roman Catholic Chuck Fleischmann spoke out on this as an act of violence to our Mary Frances Hoots, and she joins us live from the church to bring us the latest on this developing story. Mary Frances.
Well, Greg, right now I'm standing where the statue would be before it was torn down this past weekend, and U.S. Representative Chuck Fleischmann says this is nothing that should ever happen in the United States of America, regardless of religion, and it speaks very ill of where we are as a nation today.
Extreme shock, extreme sadness.
As a Roman Catholic, U.S. Representative Chuck Fleischmann is hurt by the destruction of the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary at St. Stephen Catholic Church, as Mary is a prominent figure in the Catholic faith.
A symbol of our faith, and the fact that someone would come onto the premises of a beautiful parish and commit such a heinous act, a heinous crime, is very personally upsetting.
But Fleischmann says it goes beyond that. The fact that anyone would desecrate a religious figure of any kind is very sad.
When we see these random acts of violence, especially against houses of worship, I think we all need to stand up and say, this is wrong, condemn it.
Chattanooga police are investigating the incident. The Diocese of Knoxville shared the police report with us, stating that due to the offense occurring at a church, this incident could possibly be viewed as a hate crime. This is what Fleischmann has to say about that.
I would classify it as that, but again, I cannot fathom what would be in the mind of somebody who would actually engage in such conduct.
Fleischmann tweeted about this, saying it is among a series of attacks on Catholic churches that have happened in recent days. But with strong faith, he thinks Christians can move forward from this.
The love that is, I think, inherent in Christian theology and Catholic theology can overcome this act.
The police report from the Diocese of Knoxville says the statue is valued at $2,000, and Chattanooga police are investigating this incident and say the people responsible could face charges of vandalism and potentially others. Live in Chattanooga, Mary Frances Hooch, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
You know, Rick, when you see something happen once, you know, that's an occurrence. You see something happen twice, that's a coincidence. If it happens a third time, that's a pattern.
Yes.
And so what patterns should we see? We see churches being set on fire. And we only did a couple today. We could have done about 10 of them today.
But they're primarily Catholic churches.
Right. Once again, and then look at the statues. The Virgin Mary statue up in Boston, what was set on fire? Her head was set on fire. The Jesus statue down in South Florida, decapitated. The Virgin Mary statue here, once again, decapitated, head missing. And so they took a token with them. They took a trophy with them.
So we have Jacobins.
Yes. And
guillotines.
And you notice in all of these, they say, well, it's vandalism or it's a random act of violence or something like that. They're kind of skirting around the edges. This is a hate crime. I'm telling you, it's a hate crime.
It's a revolution.
Yes.
This is the most diabolical thing that has ever happened in the history of the United States of America. And I'm not exaggerating at all. What is underway is the most diabolical, wicked, evil, violent movement that has ever appeared in this country. It is on par with the Jacobin Revolution in France in the 1780s.
I know I repeat this, Rick, but I'll repeat it again, in that the victors get to take the statues down. Yes. And so in recent months, we've seen all the political statues get pulled down. All right, so the political structure has been conquered. So when they start pulling down and decapitating statues of Christ and the Virgin Mary, what is the signal that's being sent? We have conquered you. You have been defeated. You lost. We can pull your statues down. We can behead your statue. And not only can we behead your statue, we can behead you too. That's the real message there.
Yes, Doc. That is the message of the Jacobins. They beheaded people in France for 10 years. The revolution in France, when it started, people think that, the beheading must have lasted a couple weeks. No, 10 years. That's difficult for even me to comprehend, that a wicked, evil, diabolical political revolution lasted for 10 years, in which people were pulled out of their homes and decapitated. Mobs went to people's homes. You never knew who was going to be the next person to be executed.
That's right.
The mobs would choose somebody that they were going to execute, then go to that person's home and drag them out to the guillotine and behead them for everybody to see. And that went on for 10 years. And it didn't stop until Napoleon Bonaparte took control of France, which is, again, there's the trend. At the end of one of these revolutions, you get a dictator.
Yes.
But we are now in the throes of a bloody Jacobin revolution. Do not listen to anybody who says these are hate crimes, these are random acts of violence. No, it's a revolution.
Yes.
And either these politicians and news media people are downplaying it because they simply don't understand it, or
they don't want to be targets themselves.
They don't want to be targets, and they're scared. But it is a Jacobin revolution, and it's underway right now. And one of the Black Lives Matter leaders, Sean King, said weeks ago, we're going to destroy white Jesus in America. We're going to take down every symbol of white Jesus in this country. That was a direct act of terrorism, a threat of domestic terrorism. They are now carrying out the terrorism. And people still don't get it.
No.
That's why I kept telling people, watch for Greater Glory. And a lot of you did. I'm still getting emails of people saying they watched Greater Glory. But they went into the churches.
Yes.
They attacked the people in the churches. They executed pastors in the church. Right in the church. They killed the pastors in the churches.
And they also used the churches to implement their agenda as well.
Vaccinations.
That's right. Yeah, that was the shocking part about our whole investigation.
Mandatory vaccinations.
Use the church to do it.
And that revolution against the churches in Mexico lasted 8 years. 8 bloody years.
Now, we're only in July of 2020.
The first 6 months. We're only the first 6 months of this revolution.
Where are we going to be 6 months from now, Rick?
Where are we going to be 9 years from now? Will there be any Christians surviving?
Will there be any statues? Will there be any churches that haven't been set on fire?
If these people have their way, and it includes people like Gavin Newsom, he's just a sophisticated terrorist in a suit. But he's carrying out acts of terrorism against God's holy church by issuing mandates that churches cannot be open, that people cannot sing to God. He's a diabolical terrorist. And he's waging war against the holy church of God. Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan is another one. That woman's wicked. She's evil. She's waging war against God's holy church.
But then you have governors like Asa Hutchinson that just said, well, I'm giving up. I'm giving in. I'm following in line.
Greg Abbott in Texas is going with it.
It sure seems that way.
Well, I'm not going with it. Never, ever will I bow. Never surrender. Listen to what I said. Never surrender. Never surrender. Never. You know, Doc, one other dream I had years ago, and I hope it was just a bad dream, and it wasn't a picture of the future. And this was probably about 15 years ago also. I know I was living in Texas. But America was under control of another force. The America as we have known it was over. And I was a prisoner in a concentration camp in this dream.
I remember you telling me this story, yes.
And it was a Chinese military concentration camp. And the Chinese PLA soldier, with a very evil, wicked grin on his face, informed me that it was my day, my time to be executed. And he pointed across, it was kind of like a field, like a football field type setting. He pointed across the field, and there was a guard tower. And I could see the guard in the guard tower. And he said, he's a sniper. He's going to shoot you from the guard tower. And I was on my hands and knees in this dream. And I remember I'm on my hands and knees. I look back at the guard tower and I see the guy, the sniper. And I said to the Chinese soldier who was standing next to me, and I said, tell him I'm not an animal. You tell him to come down here and look me in the eyes before he shoots me. And so he talked to him by radio, and then he looked at me and gave me this evil look, and he said, you get to live a few more minutes. He'll be here soon. And that was the end of the dream. Okay. The point is, you don't surrender. You don't surrender. Never surrender. You remain a free man, a free woman, even if it means your life taken from you. Never cower. Never bow your knees to these people. You only bow your knee to Jesus Christ. No one else is qualified for you to bow your knees before them. Never surrender your independence. Never give in to any godless tyrant. Always stand. Stand with courage, face them, look them in the eye, and proclaim your faith and allegiance and loyalty to Jesus Christ. He is our King, and I am loyal to my King Jesus Christ and to His kingdom, and I will not submit to Satan's kingdom. And they can't frighten me. They can't terrify me. I was born a free man. I will die a free man. And I am not going to submit to the tyranny that is rising up in the United States of America in the year 2020. And I encourage you to be courageous and strong and tell other Christians, the times have changed. The time of playing church is over. It's now time to be the church. We're up at the batter's plate. We're not on the bench anymore, Doc.
That's right.
We're up at the batter's plate.
This is our day.
Some of us are going to become martyrs. That's all there is to it. Just get over it. Some of us are going to prison. Some of us are going to flee. Some of us are going to suffer. Some of us are going into captivity. This is the reality of where we're at in 2020. But our God will give us the grace.
Amen.
Will give us the grace to go through it.
Amen.
He'll never leave you nor forsake you. That's His promise. Thank you for watching True News. We love you very much. Stand tall, stand strong, confess the Lord Jesus Christ, sing to the Lord Jesus Christ, praise His name. You want to drive Him crazy? Praise Him. Praise Him openly. Declare your love of Jesus Christ. That'll drive Him crazy. We'll be back here tomorrow. God bless. We'll see you.
God bless you.